Hey folks, this is going to be the wrap-up video for CSE1322. So this is the last video that I'm going to record other than a review of test number 3, which is going to be the follow-up one. In this video, there's just a couple of quick announcements I want to go through and just make sure that everybody's on the same page and make sure that everybody knows when they're taking their final and so on. So if you're watching this video, this is spring semester 2021. We're currently in week 15, which is April 26th through May 2nd. And in this week, you're supposed to be able to review and wrap up for the final exam. Next week, you will take your final exam for this class. If you are in a lab section, so let me cover the lab stuff first, and then we'll come back to the lecture. If you are in a lab section, you have a final exam this week during your lab time. Obviously, you don't go to the lab. It's you're going to do it at home in lockdown browser and all the rest with webcam, but it is during your lab section this week. So make sure that you know when your lab section final exam is. If you are confused about the timing, this is the FYE site, and if you click on down here, you will see that at the bottom of the schedule for the labs, you'll see all the different schedules down here. And so, for example, like if you were in lab 01, then you would be taking it on Wednesday. For some of you, like these guys, they have already taken it. If, and probably the most likely scenario, if you are in a section that has an online section of lab, then it's one of these two times. And the thing I would say there is just be very, very careful. The deadlines here are noon, not midnight. For all of your assignments, the deadlines have been midnight. But for this, it's not, it's noon. So make sure you read the time there. And obviously it's posted in D2L in your section, and it should list the time that it's available. So make sure that you take your lab final this week. All right, if you are now, regardless of lab, let's talk about lecture next. So this is going to be the lecture section schedule. And that is the same exact silly thing. So let me try changing that real quick. Okay, so for lecture, you're going to be taking your lecture exam for this class on this time right here. So Tuesday, May 4th from noon until Thursday, May 6th, noon, not midnight, noon. You must take the exam between Tuesday at noon and Thursday at noon. That does give you 2 overnight periods when you can take it, Tuesday night and Wednesday night, but you must have it completed, or you must start it by noon on Thursday. Okay, if you're watching this video from one of the other sections, which you may well be because of that, then make sure you pay attention to the other time periods that are listed there as well. All this information is on the FYE site. Just make sure you know when your exam is. That's what's most important. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the rules about the exam and some other stuff. So first off, when you take the exam, you're going to do it in a quiet place. You're not doing it in a classroom. So you're going to go home, you're going to go to a library, you're going to go somewhere where you cannot be interrupted for 150 minutes, which is 2.5 hours. The duration of the exam is going to be 2.5 hours. So you'll have that much time to take it. If you have an SDS accommodation, and you would know if you already do, then that time should be automatically added, and you will have your additional time as declared by your SDS accommodation. You'll start the exam in D2L, like you always have with the other exams. You'll go into D2L, it will bring you into lockdown browser, you will have to show your ID. We're not going to ask you any questions about your KSU ID or your net ID or anything like that. You don't have to know anything other than have your ID to show and then go through the setup. The usual rules about the final exam are going to be very important. So up until now, when you took test 1 and test 2, if something went wrong during the test, we would have told you it's not a big deal. You can always just replace it with your final exam. As long as it was not a cheating case, your final exam would replace your test 1 or test 2 grade. But on the final, there's nothing to replace it. So it's super important that you do not violate any rules. So listen to me carefully. While you are taking the test, you must be alone. You cannot have other people in the room with you. You cannot be talking to anyone, and you cannot use your phone at all. Let me be clear. If you do this at any moment in the test, or if we see you looking off to the side and working on a phone, you will get a 0. On your final exam, it is non-negotiable, you get a 0. And that will inherently mean you cannot get a B in the class, because the final exam is worth 25% of your grade, and a 0 on there by itself is enough to sink your grade. So do not use anything other than the computer that you are taking the test on, and do not try to use any additional resources. Do not get up from the test. You must take the entire test in its entirety while sitting there. We must be able to see your face the entire time that you are taking the test. If you take the test in a dark room, you will get a 0. If we cannot see your face, you will get a 0. You cannot have headphones on. You cannot have earbuds in. You cannot use your phone at any time. You cannot use another computer. You cannot have another computer next to you. You cannot use a laptop or a tablet or a smart watch even. And any way, you cannot communicate or use anything other than the computer that you are taking the test on. You will not have access to Replit while you're taking the lecture final. You will have Replit in the lab final, but you will not have it in the lecture final. So you are going to be writing code directly into a box, just like on test 1 and just like on test 2. So you have no IDE while you're taking the test. Make sure before you start that the computer you're using has a webcam, it works, Lockdown Browser works, there is a test, a practice test on the quiz section in D2L in your lecture, which allows you to test the Lockdown Browser. If you have any doubt, because maybe you haven't used this computer or this combination before, or you just did an upgrade, go ahead and recheck to make sure that it's going to work and that Lockdown Browser works correctly. Okay, when we specify that you have from whatever time to whatever time is your appropriate section on here, what we mean by that is that's the time during which you must begin the test. We are giving you a broader window. Like, for example, if you look at the section 1 here, section 01, it's listed as being available from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. Well, obviously that's 6 hours. Why are we giving you 6 hours? It's to give you a little bit of flexibility, because we know sometimes you have other final exams and you could be running from place to place. Technically, the final exam is scheduled right in the middle of there. For that particular section, it's from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock. But we're giving you a 2-hour window ahead of it and a 2-hour window after it so that you can start any time in there. So technically, you can begin the test at 11 a.m. and it'll give you 2 hours and 30 minutes. Or you could theoretically start the test at 4:59 p.m. and it will still give you 2 hours and 30 minutes. However, please don't do that. Don't leave it till the very last minute, because if something goes wrong and your browser cannot work, or it takes longer to get this Lockdown Browser open or something, you're done. There's no way for us to fix it. We're giving you that 2-hour window ahead of time and the 2-hour window afterwards, so you have time to recover from something stupid that happens with your computer, or some weird situation like you have to go bring somebody to the doctor or whatever. We're giving you the flexibility. Plan accordingly. Do not leave it till the last minute. Every semester somebody mails me and says, I went in to take the test at 4:59 and then something happened on my computer and I had to reboot because it was applying an update, and at 5:01 it told me the test was closed. Can I please take the test? And the answer is no, you get a 0. I don't care. I don't care if your dog eats your laptop, you get a 0. You got a 6-hour window. Plan accordingly. Give yourself enough time to take the test and or recover from anything stupid that may happen in your life. All right, while you're taking the test, do not get up and leave the test for any reason. You have to be there watching it, working on it during that time until you submit it at the end. Make sure you hit save at the end. Obviously, don't just exit out, but I think it forces you to do that anyway. So make sure you save the test and life is good. If you have any technical problems during the time that you're trying to take your test, then please send me an email before. So like if you, for whatever reason, D2L isn't working or you can't see the test or something stupid happens, then let me know. I will be available as much as I can during these time periods in order to deal with any problems that arise. So just email me. But do not email me during the test, right? You can't be taking pictures because you were sending me an email. You cannot use your phone or anything else during the test. Okay, so those are the rules of the test. You are not allowed to use scratch paper. All of these rules are listed here on the D2L Final Exam Study Guide, which I posted in D2L today under an announcement. So make sure you review them. And if you have any questions or any problems, then let me know ahead of time, and I will certainly try to answer any of those questions. But I think all of that is relatively clear. Okay, things that have less to do with the final exam, let me just go through a couple of other things. So the first thing is, we would ask that you do the reviews for the class. You should have gotten an email probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago where they gave you the end of semester feedback files or feedback surveys. So we would ask that you fill out the survey. Honestly, I would like to know what you really thought about the class and what you thought about me and the videos and everything else. If you have a complaint or something that you didn't like, please let us know so that we can try and address it for future semesters. Our goal here is always to try and make this as good as possible. So hopefully you enjoyed the class. Hopefully you got a lot out of it. If there are areas that you wish we had covered more or areas that you wish we had covered less, let us know that as well so that we can see if we can adjust that in future semesters. We do have strict requirements that we have to match for all of the degree programs that come out of here, but we can certainly try based on that. So just let us know, be honest, tell us what you think, and I look forward to seeing all of that. If you have something that you're not comfortable putting in the end of semester stuff, you can certainly email it to me. If it's longer than you want to type in there or whatever, that's fine too. Or, there's lots of places. If you have feedback for the FYE program in general, you can leave that out on the FYE site. There is a link down at the bottom for FYE feedback right down here, and it allows you to put stuff in there. So if you have something that you just want to get to me sooner rather than later, then that can be done that way. But you can also email me. You can complain about me on Rate My Professor, I guess. All right. There are office hours this week. They are the normal time. This week is, again, today is April the 26th. So I am actually doing normal office hours tomorrow, which is from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. tomorrow. And the link for that is in the D2L shell. If you just come into the D2L shell and you click over on the right-hand side underneath the Meet My Professor section, there's a bit.ly link in there, and you can join by clicking on that link. It's right here on the screen. So if you have questions, feel free to join in tomorrow and ask me whatever you might need. I'm also here on Wednesday from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You can see those are both posted up there. You can technically also drop by the office here, but in reality, it's probably just easier to use the to use the Teams link. Okay, so that's the reviews. That's the office hours. I'm looking at a set of notes that I have here. Calculating your final grade. All right, so I just sent another email out to everybody a few moments ago. And basically, as of now, the D2L shell for your grades is probably going to show a weird number because D2L does not understand how to do the replacement of the final exam grades that we do for you. Our policy is just more technically capable than D2L is, quite frankly. So you have grades for your quizzes. The best 9 quizzes are what we count. That is your quiz grade average. Add the best 9 of them together, divide by 9, that's your quiz average. It counts 25%, so multiply that number by 0.25, and that's a deal. Then you have test 1, test 2, and your final exam. If either or test 1 or if test 1 and or test 2 is a 0 for non-academic misconduct reasons, your final exam will replace one or both of those tests. So by default, your final exam is worth 25%, test 1 is worth 25%, and test 2 is worth 25%. If you got a 0 on test 1, then your final exam will count 50%, test 2 will count 25%, and the quizzes will be the remaining 25%. If you had a 0 on both test 1 and test 2 for non-academic misconduct reasons, then the final actually will count 75%, and your quizzes will be the remaining 25%. Presuming you took test 1 and test 2, then your final will replace the lowest of those two. So if you got a 50 on test 1 because it was just terrible, and you got an 80 on test 2, and you get an 80 on the final, then your actual test grades will be an 80 for test 1 because the final replaces it, an 80 for test 2, and an 80 for test 3 because that's what you had. So you're going to have to do that math yourself. I sent out an email. There's a lot of examples in that email, so hopefully you can follow along with that. But there's no reason to email me and ask me what your final grade is or what it'll take for you to get a B in the class. You have the same math that I have, so you can just go calculate that yourself. So I know for most of you, you need to get a B in here, and you're probably a little freaked out by all of that and wondering, oh yeah, I'm going to get it. I will tell you that people did better on the final exam last semester. In the end, I want to say somewhere around 30 to 40%, or maybe even 50%, I don't have the number in front of me, of people ended up replacing at least one of their test grades. So a lot of people ended up doing that. So hopefully, if you had a bad experience on test 1 or test 2, test 1 tends to be the one that people have a bad experience on because it's new and you don't know what to expect, and sometimes, but by test 2, you know what you're getting, and by test 3, you really know what you're getting, and it's a review and you can plug your way through it. So just do the best that you can on test 3, and hopefully it will replace one of your lower grades. And people tend to do good on test 3, so test 3 being the final. So make sure you practice for that. As I say, right after this, I'm going to post another video, and that video is going to have a review of the test document that I'm putting out there for you to know what to review. So in the D2L shell, there should be an announcement sitting right here, Practice Final and Study Guide, and you can see there are two things attached to it. This one is the Final Exam Study Guide, which is this document that lists all the modules, what was in each of the modules, and also all of the rules of the test that I just went through. And then the second thing that's posted in the D2L shell, if I can find it, is the test, the practice test that I'm giving you. And that looks something like this. So that practice test is what I'm going to go through in the other video. I'm going to show you the answers to it. I would highly recommend that you actually go and try to do that test before you watch the video. And the reason that I recommend that is because when I do it, it's going to make a whole lot of sense to you. But you need to be able to code it by yourself on the final. So make sure you practice with this test. There are other tests posted on the D2L site, on the FYE site. So over under resources on the FYE site, there is a practice exam for old exams, here we are, for CSE1321 and 22. So there is a practice final exam posted out here. The order of things that we taught is slightly different, but that final exam is still relevant. So if you want a second thing to practice from, you can work your way through these tests. By now, you've covered all of the material that's in them, so they are also valid tests. But specifically, the one that I gave you today in the announcement in D2L, I wrote that right after I wrote the final. So the final is a very similar format. And the layout of the questions is very similar, whereas these are slightly older, and so they don't match as well with the final exam. The questions are still valid, they're still good to practice with, but I definitely recommend that you go through the one that I posted because it is closest to that. Okay, so other than that, just a couple of final things. It's been an honor working with you guys this semester, and I've really gotten to know a couple of you that have come to office hours and whatnot, and you're all super nice folks. I hope that you enjoyed the class. I hope that you got stuff out of it. I don't disappear. I'm still around here. So if you run into questions or you run into problems in future classes, as much as I have spare time, I'm always happy to help out. So just, feel free to always email me or stop by. I think at the end of this semester, they're moving me out of Norton Hall, which is where I currently am, and I'll be back over in the atrium building on the 3rd floor over in the FYE room, which is right next to the TAs, pretty much as you come up the stairs just to the right. So you're always welcome to stop by and come in and say hi. It's kind of weird. I sometimes run into you people in the real world. So if you see me in the real world, I probably won't know you because I never saw your face, but you've seen me throughout the last semester. So anyway, it's been a pleasure working with you guys, and I hope that you learned a lot this semester. I hope that you were able to get a lot from this, and I wish you genuinely the best on the final exam. I think you're going to do great. Don't freak out. I know a lot of you are really worried about this exam, but honestly, if you understood the material as you were going through it and you made your way through the labs and the assignments and the quizzes, and you're able to do those examples, you're going to do great on the final exam. It's not meant to be a tricky exam. It's certainly a long exam because it is comprehensive, but it's not actually that hard. All of these are things that you have seen before. It's just a matter of knocking them out on that time. So take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. You're going to get the A or the B that you need out of this class, and you're going to be able to move on to your other classes in whatever field that you're in. So again, if you run into anything and you have any questions, you are always welcome to email me. Even if for whatever reason I'm not around, you're always welcome to email me at my personal email address, which is also easy to get to. It is my name @gmail.com. So thank you very much for everything. If you guys have any questions about the test or anything, feel free to send me email to the KSU address or use D2L if whatever. And then later on in life, if you ever need a referral or you just have a question or you have something that you're stuck on and you need somebody to talk to, you're always welcome to reach out to that. So you guys have a wonderful remainder of the semester. Good luck with all of your finals, and I will see you around, hopefully.